like we can start the session. And on behalf of everyone, like I welcome Stanley George sir, and we are very excited to hear from you. And I hope, like Mini Vasudev and Assiskas, you can give an intro about the Good Earth team and about sir, so that we can switch over to the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay, all right. மாலை வணக்கம். ஆக்சுவலா எனக்கு இது ஒரு ரொம்ப பெருமையான சந்தோஷமான டே டுடே, பிகாஸ் நானும் இந்த கோவை குளங்கள்ல மீட்டிங் எல்லாம் ஜாயின் பண்ணணும்னு ரொம்ப நாளா நினைச்சிட்டு இருக்கோம். பட் என்னால முடியல. பட் இந்த ஒரு ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி கிடைச்சதுனால எனக்கு ஜாயின் பண்ண முடிஞ்சது. ஸோ ஐ எம் வெரி ஹாப்பி. அப்புறம் இன்னும் பெரிய சந்தோஷமான என்னன்னா, என்னோட பேட்ச்மேட் ஸ்டான்லி ஸ்டடி, நாங்க 2 பேரும் காலேஜ்ல ட்ரிவாண்ட்ரம் காலேஜ் ஆஃப் இன்ஜினியரிங்ல சேர்ந்து படிச்சுட்டு இருந்தோம் சேம் பேட்ச். ஸோ என்னோட பேட்ச்மேட்டை இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ண முடிஞ்சதுல எனக்கு இன்னும் பெரிய சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு. ஸோ என்ன எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியுமோன்னு தெரியல, நான் வந்து ஹியூமன் அனிமல் சொசைட்டி இங்க கோயம்புத்தூர்ல அமைப்போட மேனேஜிங் ட்ரஸ்டியா இருக்கும். I'm also an engineer, but I more known in Coimbatore for my animal activism work. ஸோ குட் எர்த் பத்தியும் ஸ்டான்லி பத்தியும் பேசணும்னா நிறைய பேச வேண்டியிருக்கு. பட் எனிவே ஒரு சம்மரி அந்த மாதிரி நான் சொல்றேன். குட் எர்த் ஒரு என்ஜிஓ மாதிரி தான் ஆரம்பிச்சது. பட் என்ன ப்ரொஃபஷன் அண்ட் பேஷன் வந்து ஒன்னா சேரும்போது அது ஒரு மேஜிக், அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு கிரியேஷன் வரும், மேஜிக் ஆகும்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸோ அதோட கிளாசிக் எக்ஸாம்பிள் தான் இந்த குட் எர்த்ன்னு சொல்லலாம். ஒரு 30 வருஷமா ஒரு பேஷனோட ஜேர்னி ஒரு ஜேர்னி கண்டினியூ ஆயிட்டே இருக்கு. அதோட ரிசல்ட்னு சொல்லலாம் இந்த குட் எர்த். இனிஷியல் இயர்ஸ்ல என்ஜிஓ இருந்தாலும் ஃபைனலி அது ஒரு ப்ரொஃபஷனல் சர்வீசஸ் கொடுக்க முடிந்த ஒரு அமைப்பா அது கன்வெர்ட் ஆயிருக்கு. இப்போ பெரிய பெரிய அவார்ட்ஸ் எல்லாமே குட் எர்த் கிடைச்சிருக்கு. பேசிக்லி அது சஸ்டைனபிள் ஆர்கிடெக்சர், ப்ரொஃபஷனல் சர்வீசஸ் அண்ட் ஆர்கிடெக்சர், டிசைன் பில்ட், வாட்டர் கன்சர்வேஷன் அண்ட் நேச்சுரல் ஃபார்மிங், இந்த ஏரியாஸ்ல நிறைய பிரதானமான மைல்ஸ்டோன்ஸ் அவங்க அச்சீவ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. அதுக்கான நிறைய லாட் ஆஃப் நேஷனல் அண்ட் இன்டர்நேஷனல் ரெக்கக்னிஷனும் குட் எர்த்க்கு கிடைச்சிருக்கு. ரீசெண்டா அவங்க கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ண ப்ராஜெக்ட் என்னன்னா, அந்த 50 ஏக்கர் ஒரு டெவலப்மெண்ட் பெங்களூர், அது வந்து அந்த ஸ்டெபிளைஸ்டு பிளாக், மட் பிளாக் வச்சு ஸ்டெபிளைஸ் பண்ண ஆர்கிடெக்சரல் அதை பில்ட் பண்ணியிருக்குது. அண்ட் இட் ஹஸ் பீன் ரேட்டட் as the best green development in the country. அது போக குட் எர்த்துக்கு நிறைய நேஷனல் இன்டர்நேஷனல் அவார்ட்ஸ் கிடைச்சிருக்கு. அது பெரிய லிஸ்டே இருக்கு. சஸ்டைனபிள் ஆர்கிடெக்சர் அண்ட் டெவலப்மெண்ட்ல ஹட்கோ நேஷனல் அவார்ட் இன் குரூப் ஹவுசிங், அப்புறம் என்டிடிவி நேஷனல் அவார்ட் ஃபார் சஸ்டைனபிள் ஆர்கிடெக்சர், த ஃபியூச்சர் ஆர்க் ஏஷியன் அவார்ட் ஃபார் டிசைன் எக்ஸலன்ஸ் சிங்கப்பூர். இதெல்லாம் few of the many awards that they have got. And more important things, என்னோட பர்சனலி எனக்கு அது ஒரு ட்ரிவியா நம்ம ஸ்டான்லி பத்தி சொல்லணும்னா, அவர் ஒரு ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் ஃபேமிலியில இருந்து வந்திருக்கு. நிறைய பீப்புளுக்கு அது தெரியாது. இந்தியன் வாலிபாலோட லெஜெண்ட் தெரிய ஜிம்மி ஜார்ஜ், இதிகாசம், அவரோட தம்பி. அது போக எல்லாருக்குமே இப்போ தெரியுது அஞ்சு பாபி ஜார்ஜ், எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியும், ஒலிம்பியன் அவரோட அண்ணி. ஸோ இதுக்கு மேல இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்றதுக்கு ஒன்றும் வாய்ப்பு இல்லைன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஸோ ஐ வில் ஹேண்ட் ஓவர் டு ஸ்டான்லி. உங்களுக்கு அவரோட ப்ரொஃபஷனல் அச்சீவ்மெண்ட் பத்தி அவர் சொல்லுவாரு. அண்ட் 20 minutes டாக் இருக்கு. அதுக்கப்புறம் அது ஒரு விவாதத்துக்கு டைம் இருக்கு. ஸோ ப்ளீஸ் என்ஜாய் அண்ட் தேங்க்யூ. என்னோட ப்ரிவிலேஜ், எனக்கு இந்த ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி கிடைச்சதா. தேங்க்யூ.
Thank you, Mini. எல்லாருக்கும் வணக்கம். I can understand Tamil, but I am not so fluent. So I'll be speaking more in English. But in between, you can ask questions in Tamil. I'll respond. And if we have to stop in the presentation somewhere, it's perfectly okay. I don't look at this as a talk. It's more of a conversation. ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம் இருக்கு. நீங்க எல்லாம் இது ஒரு பேஷன்ல வந்திருக்கேன். இந்த குளங்களை எப்படி ரிவைவ் பண்ணலாம், ரிஜுவினேட் பண்ணலாம் அந்த இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட்ல வந்திருக்கேன். அதனால எனக்கு ஐ எம் வெரி கிளாட் டு என்கேஜ் வித் ஆல் ஆஃப் யூ. I'll run through. Mini has already said how we come from. We are a group of architects and engineers driven by passion, and we started our journey about 30 years ago, inspired by the works of architect Laurie Baker and Mahatma Gandhi's vision of decentralization and sustainable development. And I'm quite glad 30 years ago, we were talking about Gram Swaraj and decentralization, self-reliance, and Gandhi has come back into prominence now. Post-COVID, everybody is talking about self-reliance and sustainability. So I'll run a small slide, start with a small slideshow to give a broad idea of what is Good Earth, and then how we came into lake restoration in Bangalore. And by doing the work, we have gained a lot of insight. I think if you want to learn the wisdom of anything, the best way is to practice it. And you get into the details, gain some mastery of the subject. So I'll run through the slideshow. I'll talk in between. You can intervene and ask questions. And preferably towards end, we'll have a more meaningful conversation and dialogue. Because lake restoration is subject, everybody is talking today, or in India especially, almost all rivers are polluted. Whether it's Ganga, Yamuna, or Kaveri, everywhere we see it has become a drain of the wastewater from the cities. And almost all lakes are polluted, especially urban lakes. So how do we approach this restoration? What is the future? What is the larger vision of restoring a lake? That is what the conversation today. I would request all of you to actively ask questions and participate. This is a journey together. Thank you. I'll take you through the slideshow. So today we are discussing urban lakes, the challenges and the immense opportunities of water bodies. So I'll start with a brief overview of Good Earth, where we come from. As already discussed, we started long ago, and these are some images of the work which will give you an idea how to approach architecture and engineering and development, which is environment centric. It's almost 35 years. So we are primarily a group. We are based in Bangalore, Cochin and Calicut, decentralized, but we have been together more than 3 decades now. Right from the beginning, our vision was we shall not remain just as advisors or giving consulting. We have to execute, and that's something the late architect Laurie Baker always used to tell us. If you cannot build something, you have no right to design. you must know in and out of construction. You must know the material, the craft of it, the labor, the feel of the material, feel of the land. So all that is very important when you do a building or do a project. It's not just something you give it in paper and sit at home. You have to be on ground and execute. We have to be hands-on. We are all hands-on people. That has been our strength all these years. So we are glad that we are a diverse people with a lot of diversity in us. We are architects, there are engineers, there are craftsmen. Unfortunately, India, we have forgotten our craftspeople. I always share with when we discuss in technical sessions. Even now, some of the most fantastic buildings which we are proud of are built by the craftsmen. Maybe 100 years, 200 years ago, like in Tanjore, like in Madurai, like in Trichy, wherever you see all this magnificent architecture, they were all done by craftsmen, hands-on people who could design and execute. This is an image of one of our new project, which Mini had mentioned, of this 50-acre campus. This is one of the communities. So this was a shot in 2014, and you can see the change now in 2020. So as architects and designers, I mean engineers and builders, we were deeply involved in sustainable architecture, the whole issue of sustainability. We got into water, then I started understanding soil, then ecosystems, and it all shaped a larger holistic view about how to approach a project, whether it's a building project or a lake restoration. What we understand today is that all these topics we talk about sustainability, it is holistic. It's not just about one discipline. For example, in a lake restoration, there is you need to have an understanding of how the whole water planning has to be done. You must have an understanding of the geology of the underground, whether water is percolating or not, or how can it hold water. Then a soil, understanding of the soil, ecosystems and biodiversity, you need to have an understanding. And there is architecture, there is an aesthetics when you create something. So it's a joint effort, it's a teamwork. And so very often I experience that maybe one department is dealing with, they have no idea of the other things. Or one expert is expert on, say, maybe birds, maybe somebody is expert on aquatic life. But you need a larger vision. It's the total, and that's why we call holistic. Now we are talking about more holistic design. Every project, every development need to be understood in a holistic way. Otherwise, we'll have to, there will be repercussions on environment, on water, on ecology, on even your quality of space. It will be affected. So about 2.5 years ago, while we built the large project, the local community approached us. There was a small water body which was in bad shape. It was polluted, full of plastic, whether we could do something about it. And Good Earth was very keen. Our thinking was that, see, when we do a development in any place, it kind of impacts the neighborhood. Maybe it affects the groundwater, you know, there is an environment which is disturbed. So we are very happy to get involved so that we create something as a thanksgiving to the local community, a water body. I mean, there is nothing more we could give than create a lake ecosystem for the local community around the project. And that place is called Anjapalaya. It's in Bangalore, on the Bangalore-Mysore highway. I'll show some slides of the lake. What was it in 2018 and what is it today? This was a condition. It was stagnant water and the entries were chalked, silting, and it was stinging, or it was a waste dumping place. And this was a picture taken on 25th of January 2008, day prior to the Republic Day. We started the work on the Republic Day on January 26 in 2018. You can see the condition of the water body in 2018. So we thought, see, it's important that people get involved in the real physical work. I think Seva is part of the action, most important component of any qualitative work. And the local community and us came together. We have to literally pick up the plastic. If we roll the mud over it, it will be all buried under the lake bed, and it will slowly pollute the water body. So we have to pick it up. And quite enthusiastically, in a single day, we almost cleared 80% of the plastic, with almost 500 people coming out into the lake bed and picking up. I was glad that the local Panchayat president, because they were also inspired. Once we got into the ground with our sags and gloves, they could not stop. They also joined the effort, and the local schools joined us. And this is a work happening. Then we had a design, I'll come to the whole total, how we approach the design a little later. But we thought this community, it's a crowded village. It needs a public space. So we have to create something which they are proud of or they are excited about, so that they take care of it. So we used only some formation. We have to deepen the lake bed, desilt it to increase the capacity of the water body. That was our thinking then, though we have some different ideas now. So wherever you go, you will see all over India this work happening with stone and concrete on the sides. Dumping a lot of concrete and stone, actually it destroys the lake edge, the natural edge. A lot of natural resources unnecessarily wasted. It is not at all required. We tried various slopes to establish that this is possible. See, how a plant or a tree holds an edge is not taught in our engineering. We are taught only concrete and brick and stone. You can see we planted some native trees and plants, but almost 80% of it came on its own. That's a wonder of nature. We did some artwork and in the area, so that it kind of inspire the children and others to take care of the lake bed and take care of nature. This is a message we conveyed, that the primarily what leads to an environmental destruction is our thinking that all the natural resources only for humans. But there is a larger message. It belongs to all creatures. I mean, so that's a message we put across. All creatures are children of Mother Earth. So it's every day the nature is coming back. We see new butterflies, new dragonflies. We have mapped about 10 varieties of dragonflies after the 1 year. After 1 year, then there are a lot of birds coming in, because ecology is slowly evolving. It's quite amazing how nature functions. I mean, it just regenerates itself. You can see the robust natural edge. It's holding very well, extremely well. There is no stone or concrete. The plants are holding the edge. If you look, this we were observing around forest lakes and forest rivers. So everything is held by nature. I mean, you don't need to really unnecessarily engineer these things. So this is a recent shot. I mean, the flowers have started blooming, and lake has become really beautiful. And the local community is now taking care of it. The Panchayat has taken charge, and we are quite happy that to see children, ladies, elderly people taking a walk around the lake mornings and evenings, and it's quite used well. So I'll come to today's topic. I mean, I gave some background of what we do and what is our experience. So after doing the lake, in the last year's floods, we got little involved in the flood studies, got more into geology and hydrology. How do you compute, the volume of water? How does water behave with the soil? And it gave a lot of insight. And we are now talking about how to approach design or development of lake holistically. So any lake, whether it's in Covey or Bangalore or anywhere in the world, we need to have a fundamental vision. What do you expect out of a water body? I mean, we are proposing that primarily we need to look at a lake body or a water body as one is the primary function is the water security of the city. How does it enhance your water table in terms of percolation, in terms of holding it, or in a situation, suppose now climate change is real. Sometimes the rain can be delayed. Your river may not supply the water. We should be prepared for any eventuality. Then can your lake water augment some amount of water supply for the city if it is clean? So if it is polluted, that opportunity is gone. So I am of the opinion that we have to keep our water bodies pristine and clean. The moment you start putting sewage into it, it is gone. You are primarily defeating your water security of the city. And if polluted water is stored in a lake, it will start seep into the groundwater. It will pollute the groundwater. There is a greater risk involved in storing wastewater or sewage in the lake. Lake has to primarily hold clean water. That is one vision. Second, what is the function of a lake? The lake has an ecosystem with its vegetation, its flora and fauna. The birds are there, and that any city need to have a certain percentage of robust ecosystem. It is for a healthy air and and a healthy environment. This is absolutely necessary. And it also is a public space. I mean, in the city, we don't have too much enough public space for the population of any city today. We have grown organically in India, randomly out of poverty in the villages. People have migrated to cities for opportunities, and we have just stuck now. I mean, there are too many people and less space. So it is important that we create some breathing space, lung space as a public space. So we were looking at a lake primarily for this. One is water security. Second is the ecosystem and the biodiversity for the city. And third is it's a public space where people can use it. Maybe in a large water body, you don't expose public to all the area. Some you keep as pristine, just wild. And maybe some area we can give it to, allow people to use it so that they experience nature, they experience clean and quality air. And that clean and quality air will heal people. I mean, a lot of your diseases will go if you breathe fresh air. I think it's a requirement. And when a city is developed without much planning, and if there is not enough park and wild areas, people have no choice. I mean, they are stuck in closed spaces, and more diseases spread. Especially in times like this corona, we feel you need a large open space where people can come out and breathe. It's absolutely required. So we were approaching a holistic design fundamentally on these three principles: water security, ecosystem, and public space. So water security and groundwater is a primary requirement. So I'll come to the process, but fundamentally the larger vision for Coimbatore is what is the amount of water you get in rainfall. There is a measurement. There is a quantum of rainfall, 7 millimeter of rainfall annually you get. And how much is it draining out? How much is it that you're able to store? How much is it that you're able to store underground into the soil through various techniques? Surface percolation or deep aquifer recharge. So water security is an important thing. And this has to be very scientifically planned. The fundamental principle of water management is that anywhere, water has to be protected from the sun. Otherwise, it will evaporate if you expose in anywhere. So soil is the best storage because construction of tanks and all is very expensive, and that's how the forest do store water. If you study a forest ecosystem, I mean, it has a spongy layer of composted material is called humus, which is over a million years or more, and that topsoil rich in carbon, rich in organic carbon and biomass, absorbs the water. And you can, if you go to Silent Valley, the Bhavani River or Kundi River, it's absolutely clean even during extreme monsoon, because the forest, the catchment acts as a filter, and filtered water is coming to the stream, and it's absolutely clean. If there is soil erosion happening, you will see the color of the river as a muddy, or the brown color river will be flowing. So a well-managed land means the river is clean even during a extreme monsoon. That is a measurement. If you observe a river flowing during monsoon clean, means the catchment is fantastic. It is filtering the water, and clean water is coming into the river. So the larger understanding of any water body, a river or a lake, we have to understand the land around the river is part of the river. The hills are more important than the river. The river is only a drain. The hills or the soil around the catchment has to absorb water, and there are various things how it happens, and absorb water and slowly release. Then you have perennial stream. In summer you get stream. The hills or the land around any water, river or a lake has to slowly release. Then you have around the water. And if you want to revive Kaveri or any river, you have to work on the land around the river. I mean, you cannot do much with the water. That river is only a drain. Water has to move out. It needs an exit. So in a lake storage, or if you look at Coimbatore as a whole, the larger design is what is the quantum of water you get as rainfall? How much is absorbed in the land in Coimbatore, in Covey, and how much is coming to the lakes, excess water? How much is it you are draining out through the river? So this will give you a big picture. This is the capacity of the city. And how do you improve the water holding capacity of the land? Means your underground water reservoir is getting built up. So if you don't understand this, if you make just a water body, roughly 2 meter to 3 meter depth of water will evaporate in most of the warm climates with the wind and sun. So I see this work all over India, under Manrega and various things, creating a lot of water bodies. I'm not saying it is not serving any function, but we have to understand, if it is not vegetated and protected from sun, this water will not serve much purpose, it will evaporate. So how the soil works, we will come to that later. The soil biology is very crucial in improving the water holding capacity of land anywhere. So this is a question we have been discussing in Bangalore. Can we use excess water when during monsoon? Water comes to the lake, can be for the local distribution. I know many cities are functioning. Bhopal, they are using the lake water. In Calicut, they use the pond water. So when you get so much water, why not we use it than simply draining it out or leaving it for evaporation? So when we discuss lake, we need to understand what is a healthy lake. A good lake goes through seasonal changes, and it's perfectly okay if it dries up. In different seasons, in a lake, there are different ecological activity. In summer, maybe termites are working. When there is moisture, you'll find earthworms, you'll find crabs. You will have a different set of ecosystem in different season, and that's how nature functions. And we don't have to really artificially create water body, and it's not a correct aesthetics. It is to follow the nature. If it dries up, it has its own beauty. Instead of green grass, you will be seeing brown grass, and you will have a different set of insects, a different set of butterflies and dragonflies and birds coming in different season. And when it is full, you will find more water birds. When it is dry, you will find a certain different set of birds, and they are all very, very important. So I mentioned in the beginning about how a natural edge is used in a structurally stable way. In engineering, with vegetation, we can hold the water body, and any water body, it's not the water body which is important ecologically, it's the edge. And it's in the edge where you find birds laying eggs, you will find crabs, you will find frogs, you will find snakes, you will find all lot of insects. And that insect world has a relationship with the water. And that's how the fish, the aquatic ecosystem thrive. They complement each other. And without a natural edge, we are creating only a sterile water body. There won't be any life in it. And if there is no food for the fish, there won't be any birds. And I have seen this in Bangalore. The restored lakes, the bird population has come down, is my birders friends tell us. Because earlier, when it was not restored, still there was an ecosystem, there was insects, and there was a food for the birds, and they used to come, migratory birds used to come. Once restored, it has become sterile, and there is no food in the water, and birds are not coming. Their population has come down. There are studies on it. If a bad restoration can do more damage to the ecosystem. There are some images. I mean, a lake, how it behaves in a different season. In winter, it has a different quality. In summer, it's different. When the monsoon comes, it's different. When it is a post-monsoon, it is different. And it's a natural process, and we have to allow the natural process of a lake. We need not worry that round the year there is water. And I see this stupidity where people artificially spend a lot of money and get treated sewage water in the lake. And that is not required. And drying up of a lake naturally has a very, very important ecological significance. I will come to that. So whether it's agriculture or a lake ecosystem, we look at it from an engineering point of view, or just look at the plants and trees and birds. But most crucial in any land is it's a soil biology, the organisms, the earthworms, the termites, the crabs, the insect world. Actually, they make they puncture the lake bed. They make holes. I mean, some of them can go to 15 feet, some 20 feet. So you have like a sponge. It is a porous lake bed. When you allow seasonal changes, this biological activity happens. The soil animals actually puncture the lake bed, and its capacity to hold water increases many times, because in the surface probably you can make a height of say 2 meter or 3 meter, but the animals create a depth of even 5 meter, 6 meter. It can go, it depends on the geology, but in a lot of areas it can go to far deeper levels. And in ecologically, an elephant and a bandicoot, the big rat, is I would say the bandicoot is more important, because it tunnels the soil bed and lake bed, and it allows the water to percolate to deeper levels. Otherwise, if it is a silty or clay layer on the top, it may not really allow the percolation into the deeper levels. And the soil animals play a very, very important role, increasing the water holding capacity of any land, whether it's agriculture land or a lake bed. So what we see today with the way we do agriculture, with chemical agriculture, with a lot of pesticide, we have killed the animal population in the soil. And it has actually affected the moisture capacity or the moisture level in the land, especially in agriculture lands. And we see that, notice this agriculture lands immediately dries up when the summer begins. Earlier, with by the activity of the soil animals, it could hold more moisture, and slowly by capillary movement, it could release more water, and there was more moisture in the soil, and plants used to do well. Now the moisture level has gone, and I notice this more in Kerala. When there is a rain, huge rain, there is immediate flood, because its water holding capacity of the land has come down. It immediately drains out, and you get a flood. And in summer, there is no moisture in the soil; it has dried up. And this is a situation, and which I say flood and drought are two sides of the same coin. If you don't understand the soil biology and work on the improving the soil biology, or allow the soil organism to function, the soil, a live soil becomes a dead soil. It happens to the same lake bed. And with this, all these insects thriving in a lake bed, there is enough for the birds to come, and they also come, and you can see the robust ecosystem. It's the interrelationship. If I quote famous environmentalist Carl Sagan, the life in this planet exists with the constant interaction of all life forms, from an algae to a big banyan, a bacteria to a big elephant. So all these animals and insects and plants and organisms, they constantly interact, and this their relationship is very complex. The plant association, the animal association is very complex. Last year, when the Nipah virus outbreak happened in Kerala, there was a study. It was actually out of the stress of the bats in the wild. Their habitat was threatened, and it developed a stress, and they produced a certain virus out of its survival instinct, and it came to the people. Fortunately, it was checked, but it can happen. And when there is an imbalance is created in the environment, it will lead to a new outbreak of new set of diseases. Now we are struggling with the coronavirus. Imagine this: an invisible virus has brought the entire human race to its nails. We have never thought, we never thought something like this could happen. So a balance of ecosystem is very crucial. We don't know really which insect is important or not important. They do a function, and how nature functions is I don't think any one of us can really understand even a tip of it. It's a very, very complex thing. So having what best we can do is actually allow the ecosystems to flourish and observe how it's improving. See, certain insects and animals can actually change the environment. It affects the quality of. It's not just the aroma from the flowers and trees. Even a healthy bacteria has an aroma. We know the smell of the soil when it rains in the beginning. It's certain organisms when they die, they release certain aroma. So it's very complex how the nature really behaves. And I think when we get into a lake restoration, it is important that we get deeper into understanding the nature and how the ecosystems behave. Natural edge is structurally stable and very crucial for biodiversity. I mean, this you can observe, and if you step out when you travel, observe any water body and see what is the kind of vegetation on the edge, how is it holding. And it's quite interesting that naturally at the intersection, reeds come up, the semi-aquatic plants come up, and we have to allow this regeneration to happen. When you make a concrete or when to try to engineer it with concrete and stone, you are destroying the opportunity to a natural revival of a water body. And most of them actually do a different function. As one is releasing oxygen to the water, and many of them absorb toxicity from the water, and that's very important. As I had mentioned, actually, in a city urban lake, we need breathing space. And when you design or plan for, create some space for public to use, either for yoga or for walk or exercise, and also interaction. I think nature has an amazing power to calm down people and heal them. And it will, I have noticed this when we do certain projects, and when we create an environment, many of us, my clients come and tell me, my father has lived another 10 years because he could live in a healthy place with enough fresh air and enough diversity. And it's interesting that each plant releases certain amount of aroma into the atmosphere. There is a set of healthy bacteria or organism associated with the trees and plants. So together they create an environment where we are healthy, we are comfortable, we get clean air. This is an image from one of the lakes in Bangalore. What happens when sewage enters the water body? So what happens when dirty water or sewage happens when it enters a stagnant water body? It's very important to understand. when there is excess nutrients in the water body, you will find an algae bloom. Then anaerobic bacteria, and which is most of them are disease causing, they start multiplying in the water body, and the oxygen level in the water comes down and it kills the water body. You will see the fish floating dead on the water body when the oxygen is depleted. When that increases, the eutrophication is excess nutrient load in any water body, and that will eventually lead to methanization and releasing of toxic gases to the atmosphere, which actually puncture the ozone layer. And the studies say that one of the major source of the climate change is how the certain gases affect the atmosphere is mostly it is from marshy lands, wetlands. When in agricultural lands, in many developed countries, they use a lot of industrial fertilizer, and very often the plant takes only a small amount. The excess is actually with the rain or irrigation, it's drained into the stream, it enters the water body, and this excess nitrates and phosphates lead to an what do you call eutrophication, more growth of the surface algae, which deny the oxygen to the other organisms, and it loses the balance, and it will slowly become dead, and it will start releasing methane. So, as I said in the beginning, one is you have a large big picture of the rainfall. What is the amount of water you get? How much it is stored in the soil in Covey? How much it comes to the lake? How much is drained out of the city? And second is to understand what is the kind of wastewater generated by the city. Approximately, a city like Coimbatore, you must be consuming around 100 liters per person per day. That means you can multiply your population. That's the kind of water being consumed for domestic requirement. And leaving some irrigation, almost all of it comes back as a wastewater. Some amount is our body uses, and there is evaporation loss. And leaving that, maybe about 70 to 80% comes back as wastewater. And there are two parts to the domestic wastewater. There is a grey water, and there is a sewage, black water. And it is not a wastewater, it is rich in nutrients. So once we go into the lake, we were also into natural farming and try to understand how nutrients are moving. When you few truckloads of vegetables or food items move from a village to the city, there is also a certain movement of nutrients, which is the village soil. You grow something, it picks up 96% of the plant body is from atmosphere, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and oxygen, all your photosynthesis. Remaining 4%, the small percent is actually potassium, phosphorus, sulfur, calcium, manganese, boron. All elements are actually picked up by the plant. And when you harvest something, so that to that extent, there is a depletion of the nutrient from the soil. You need to replenish it either by synthetic fertilizer or by compost, which you have to get it back. What I'm saying is that when nutrients are moving from a village to the city, and it is passing through the human body and some as waste, and that nutrients is there in the wastewater, and if you use it with the proper treatment, grey water and black water, you need to direct it to city peripherals to grow biomass, and you can grow horticulture if it is treated well, is absolutely safe. Create biomass and create humus, the compost, and put it back to agriculture, send it back to the villages. So there is a nutrient recycling. Otherwise, the village soil will become poor, and the productivity comes down, and you will find more farmer suicide later on, which is a scene all over India we experience. What I understand is that in the last 2 decades, more than 6 lakhs farmers have committed suicide. Most of it is because the land has become sterile and the groundwater is depleted. So you have the two resources with you in a city as wastewater. One is water, second is the nutrients in the wastewater. So it need to be recovered and put it back to the original source. That's how sustainability works. So domestic water, wastewater is not it's a excellent resource. You need to really segregate industrial sewage. What we observe is that in most of the sewage treatment plants in Bangalore is not functioning. Each is a 200 crores, 300 crores, huge investment. In a large network, if somebody dumps certain chemical sewage, because treatment is expensive, in one of the sewers, that chemical will kill all the bacteria in the treatment plant. The design of a sewage treatment plant functions on two things. One is the quality of the sewage. Second, it's the microbial load, and the gestation time is the design. And if all the bacterial load is gone with the chemical input, then the plant is dysfunctional. Then we will dump the untreated sewage into the streams and we'll pollute the river. I mean, that is happening all over India, and it's happening in all over the world also. So industrial sewage, absolutely, it has to be carefully taken out and treated with the proper care and disposed. It shall not be allowed to link with any domestic sewage treatment plant or a lake or a stream. The chemicals, if it gets into heavy metals, if it gets into the underground groundwater, if it is polluted, it will affect the health. I mean, there are many studies where heavy metals actually led to a lot of kidney diseases and a lot of other diseases, because it's something human body cannot handle. So when we look at a lake, what we are trying to understand is the industrial sewage coming there, or is there a domestic sewage coming there, or is it just rainwater? So how do you plan for it? So in a larger vision, we need to have a very clear plan. This is how we are going to handle rainwater. This is how we are going to handle domestic grey water. We are going to handle black water. Then this is industrial sewage. If we have the compartments very clear, separate network to treat and handle, that's absolutely important. I'll come to the process. And so at this point, many of you, I can understand the scene is more or less same anyway. People want to revive the lake. There is a passion, there is an interest. So how do we go about it? So I will say the starting point of any lake rejuvenation anywhere is to get the science in place. We have to start with measurement and documentation. One is a measurement of your rainfall. Then measure the water quality in lakes, in the streams, in the drains. So establish that measurements in different seasons. In summer, when it rains, in between. So have a program, and in different points, strategically located places. And now this can be done by school students. And it's not rocket science. With your mobile phone tagging, you can create a map. This is the water quality of this location on this date. And if you start documenting, you will create an information, and which is useful for analysis. This is the quality of water, and with the rain, the pollution is coming down to this level. With summer, it's increasing to this level, and there is a health risk. And this has to be a part of our culture, understanding of water. Water is a primary source of our existence. Then I say, once you understand your infrastructure for domestic sewage, industrial sewage, rainwater, and water supply, you have a master plan of your water planning for Covey. This is our quantity of water we need to augment. This is the capacity of the land to hold the water, and how and there is aquifer recharge. I'll speak something about it, which is important even for agriculture. What I notice is that, say, I have some land in Tamil Nadu, and I travel quite often. And we see the standing coconut trees suddenly drying up and dying. So my observation is that the surface moisture has come down because the people have started using bore wells. And the water table, which was at 50 feet, is now 700 feet. I understand in Pollachi it is 1,200 feet to that level. And when you pull down the water level, and there is a vacuum created, and there is a dryness in the top layer where the plant roots are sitting. And I know my friends in conservation in Madurai, they are saying even after taking care of the trees for 5 years, suddenly we see the trees are dying. So the moisture level in the surface is gone because we are pulling water down with the bowels. Then the dryness in the intermediate layer will kill the trees. and this is happening. I've seen it all over India, wherever borewells are used. So in my view, the India is moving to a very dangerous desertification, and there are studies by ISRO. ISRO has given published a report on that. 30% of India is under desertification, means because it's becoming arid and desert, because your rainfall is less than the evaporation from the soil, because the top vegetation is gone, the protective layer is gone, and evaporation is more, and obviously it will start becoming sandy and desert. And many of you would have observed in Tamil Nadu, a lot of areas in Tamil Nadu is under this threat now. So once you start measuring the borewell levels year on year, you will know, and the public will know, the children will know, my water table in the city has gone down from 100 feet to 200 feet or 300 feet, whatever. I don't know Coimbatore situation, but maybe there is a change. But once you start measuring of the levels in the wells, surface wells, and the levels in the borewells, and you can geotag it, it's very simple. And I think if the 500 children step out, you can do it in a single day, with entire mapping. And you do it in with a calendar around the different seasons. You map the water levels, then a big picture emerges. This is happening to our city. Water table is going down, or our water quality is going down. This information is crucial. And now today's technology, this environmental information must be put up with a mobile app. Everybody looking at the information can understand, oh, my city's quality of the water is gone down, or it is improving. That's also an information. Or my water table is going down. We need to do something about it. Unfortunately, I see all over India, we try to do some flood mapping in Kerala. We still have some very old rain gauges which is manually operated. And when I inquire about the data, they say, oh, we just put some data, we were on leave, something like that, you know. So because the local rainfall and the information is very, very different. It's very region specific. You need more precise data. And today, automatic weather stations are available, which will give you when solar driven. On your phone, you can see hourly rainfall, hourly wind, moisture, temperature, and using that weather station for now, many countries are using it for agriculture. For example, in a windy area, if you know the speed and the direction, you can plant wind belt to protect your crop from. It will improve your productivity of the agricultural lands. So measurement and data of all these things has many applications. For example, in the city, you have some light roof structures, and we see this with the heavy wind, something is blown away. But if you have the data of the velocity of that particular, see, from a valley to ridge, different areas, it changes. I mean, it's very, very local. And if you know the speed, you can redesign your structures and add more fixing to the ground, and put some extra bolt and reinforcement, and the structure is stable. I mean, that's how we have to use science in everyday life. I mean, so this creating the when you get into any lake, start of the region, and the best practice in environmental planning is to start from the ridge to valley, from the top of a hill. Medu mudalla pallam vare. What is the area? Now technology is, we can do it in sitting in Bangalore, can compute what is a probable flood in your river there, if there is a data on the rainfall. And the technology is advanced, and I think we have to train form a local environmental team. It need not be government. I think we have to stop looking at government for all solutions. It's public can create, what I say, public engineering is possible. And if you know this information, and it should be, very universal, and people have to carry the science with them. And that's how civilization has come this far. People have carried the science, and when especially in Tamil Nadu, I see the fantastic architecture of your state, and it is so rich in it has a genius. Kowe especially has created brilliant engineers, and there has been fantastic innovation. You have a PSG, you have the mills very early on, and these things are very, very simple for you people if you come together. And I would say it's not about putting more heads together, it's putting more heart together when you want to revive your ecosystem and you want to move to a higher quality. Beyond the ordinary, if you have to go, you need to put your heart into the work, and it's not so complicated. I'm saying it's pretty much simple getting into the analysis. We can help if some of you come together. It's not at all an issue. I spoke in the beginning around groups influenced by influence of Gandhi on decentralization. For a country like India, I don't think we can follow the Western model. We have a huge population, and small decentralized solutions is what will work for us. We shall not aspire for what works in America or Europe, which are their small population. And historically, we have survived with local intelligence. And I feel we have survived so many thousands of years, and there is a brilliance in our culture. We need to look at that. And people have the adaptability and skill to develop solutions in a very simple way. And the more we decentralize, it's better for the country. And Mahatma Gandhi was the only politician, I would say, of that level who could understand the principle of decentralization, sustainability, ecosystems, and self-reliance long back. So it's all connected: nature, decentralization, people, the culture, art, and the quality of it's all interdependent and interconnected. Unfortunately, I'm a civil engineer. We are all taught about mega projects, and we think that centralization will solve the problem. That is where fundamentally India went wrong post-independence. That's why we're still grappling with the many issues today. It should have been more decentralized, and we could have trusted our own people than have an administrative system of mistrust. And that's where we really went wrong, is my view on it. And today we are saying there is no single river or lake which is not polluted. I've traveled across North India and the Himalayan rivers, and see, the story is more or less the same. With centralization, what we do, we make a small problem into a big problem. You can notice this in waste management. India must be spending close to 50,000 crores for waste management in a year. So this is what is the output of that effort? We don't increase any wealth. We don't increase any opportunity. We create an opportunity for. I think it's asking people to segregate food waste and other waste from plastic is not humane. It's like we shall not people do such things. The waste management has to, when we say decentralized, it has to happen at the source. At the household level in Bangalore, in our projects, and not only in our projects, in many apartments, people are doing the home composting. It's very simple, and it's a resource. It's a fertilizer for your pots or your garden. I mean, or as I said, cities have to send it back to the villages to flow it back into agriculture. So when you have what is seen as you are accumulating all the waste and struggling to separate it, this technology, that technology, then finally it will all dumped into landfill, which will finally leach into the groundwater. And with every rain, you see the plastic and other things, rivers are carrying it, and it will finally end at the sea level, at the mouth of the sea. All this is accumulated, and it will kill the aquatic life. And we are so stupid to spend so much money on waste management, but people can do it actually. So we have to change the way we look at things. I feel I don't have much hope in the centralized government, but people have enormous potential to come forward and deliver things. India is amazing that way. So whether it's waste management or water management or even agriculture or even manufacturing, a lot of things work on decentralized small systems where people are galvanized to bring out their creativity, talent, and ideas, where more fantastic things happen. So, whether it's like with the holistic design looks at water, ecosystems, agriculture, soil nutrients, livelihoods, ecological assets. Water is a primary ecological asset, or the biomass we create, or the timber we can. We have to see with a certain amount of nutrients which is generated as waste in the city, how much timber we can grow, what is the money involved in it, and it is big money which India can create. I'll invite my colleague Prashant in Bangalore to present some ideas on the lake design. Maybe you may find it interesting, because whatever I talked about with our experience, I think it's not so important to have a huge capacity of the lake. A lake bed which is going through seasonal changes with a very vibrant soil organism can hold much more water, and that is how all over the world there are some insights on this, because what we create on a surface will evaporate. So we have to allow the soil animals to perform and the nature to perform, and it will automatically improve your groundwater levels underground. So please, Prashant, please take over. Yes.
Hi, this is Prashant. Thank you, Sani. So, am I audible clearly? I'll just present.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just present now. Yeah, I hope everybody can see my screen. So I think we got a good picture of how we approach our holistic design and our experiences in the Anchapalya Lake. So we had a group of residents coming, who live around this Dodagupi Lake, who came to us for a solution and a suggestion for their lake, a big lake. So I'll just go briefly on how we took these design principles and applied for a project. I mean, of course, it's ongoing right now, but I'll just give you an idea of the design. So this is Dodagupi Lake. It's in Bangalore on the Hennur Airport Road. The actual lake, as per Google Maps or as per the records, is 105 acres. And we did a catchment analysis, which you can see on the left. I'm not sure if you can see my screen. I'm sorry. Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, so you can see. So this is the actual catchment of the whole lake, which is around 25 square kilometers. And again, with a little more, physical studies, we realized that around 11 square kilometers of that is pure clean catchment. So in the sense, any water actually falling in that 11 square kilometers can actually be directly used as clean water supply for the lake. So some simple numbers on the surface. When we mean surface, on the top part of the whole lake, we can store around 400 million liters based on Bangalore's rainfall of average 900 to 1000 mm, and 105 acres, that's around 400 million liters. And based on our concept of the substrata holding a lot more water, almost 10 times. So we typically can store a lot of water in the whole surface of the lake and the subsurface of the lake. So this is a small intro on the Dodagupi Lake. So we approach the design as part of the principles what Stanislas spoke about. So the first thing we did is identifying all the different inlets and all the outlets from the whole lake system. So identifying the quantity of water, quality of water, and as we said, in different times of the year, so whether we're actually getting sewage or it's purely rain-fed. All those data is pretty important to know what are the different interventions we need to take so that we don't actually pollute the whole lake ecosystem. So what we proposed, so if you can see all these different lines of the entry parts, we've also written what is the clean water, where we're seeing gray water, maybe there's a residential apartment here, there's some more clean water here. So all of these different things are the source of water to this lake. So the first thing we did is we actually created a small kind of a channel around the whole lake, maybe 80 to 100 feet wide, which will again be naturally edged, what we call a swale, a very wide swale, where we can have different kinds of very wetland species plants. So it will also, in addition to, in an ideal case, we would like all the water coming in here, maybe treated at source, but even if there is some adulteration, that this channel kind of captures, and the water is purified along the whole length, and then it actually goes downstream. So by doing that, we are actually protecting the main lake zone, which we say where we only want to catch the clean catchment. So all clean catchments, we should ideally directly get it into this particular zone. It could be just general flow. It could also be roof water of the surrounding apartments. Any clean catchment should be channelized into this central zone. So I'll go a little more detail into the central zone, each zone. So it again goes with what Saini just spoke about. So these zones where you can see is marked in green is something we call the sacred zone. In Kannada, we call it Devara Kadu. So it's basically a dense planting of indigenous, native, local species, wherein we allow these trees over the years to actually grow a canopy, which we increases the humic content, and we talk about carbon content. The actual water retention increases by many-fold. And also these trees, through their root system, actually infiltrate far more water into the groundwater rather than it being on the surface. So these are the zones we kind of identified like that. I mean, each lake we'll have to design differently, but this is the approach we applied for this particular lake. And going on to the next zone is an extension to the previous zone. We are calling this a reserved forest, whereas the sacred forest, we didn't want anybody to enter and have its own ecosystem come up. The reserve forest could be let in for more, bird lovers and nature enthusiasts, where while the function is the same, but it also means that there is a public eye to this, and it's not just being used as for dumping or anything else. So just to have a relationship between the public and the lake in that sense. So this also adds to the whole ecology, and the bottom layer has like what Saini spoke about, the different microbial ecosystem, and also the different flora and fauna, which actually increases the whole ecosystem manyfold. Third zone, which you can see again marked in these three different green parts, are the more public facing. We call it, here we have proposed a children's park, where for the aspirations of the local community, for their lung spaces and for their entertainment and recreation. And also a lot of in Bangalore, a lot of these places are actually used as grazing areas for a lot of the farmers around. So kind of keeping that also in mind when we actually design any lake system is to understand all the stakeholders, not just the citizens, but what actually the lake kind of catered to originally, and how do we still continue to do so. So looking at grazing areas, we could also look at different concepts. So we looked at, in this case, we looked at butterfly garden, vegetable gardens, and herb gardens or something at a more public-facing level. But predominantly the whole lake is actually a planted spongy layer of plants. We're trying to eliminate as much open area as possible, so as to reduce evaporation, and also to increase infiltration through these plants. We will not be actually able to, so we spoke about 11 square kilometer and 25 square kilometer of a catchment, but actually all this water cannot be actually stored in the lake. So even in the the subsurface of the shallow subsurface. So through hydrogeological studies, we can actually identify the ground. We're talking about 100, 200 feet below the aquifers below. Those can be identified and mapped, and we could actually have recharge borewells planned within the whole lake ecosystem. When we have excess flows and we have excess rainwater or flash rains, all of this water can actually be stored in the these aquifers, because those volumes are far higher than the surface volumes. So this has cascading benefits. So in addition to storing water and generally increasing the quality and quantity of the borewells around, it also helps during these unforeseen flash events. So I spoke about this. Coming back to the original channel, the channel which I spoke about could be a natural wetland and a water body where we could have a more wild ecosystem where it allows water to purify through the traverse across the whole lake. So this is the lake design we proposed for WB, and putting all the principles of the holistic design, completely avoiding concretization and very minimal disturbance of an existing ecology. So it's just channeling whatever we have and letting it continue in its original state. So that's about it. Thank you. So I'll hand it over back to Stanley.
So thank you. I think we spoke a little too much. Now you're welcome to ask questions and even give us ideas. We are ready to listen. Many of you will have experience on lake and ecosystems. So please.
Hi Stanley, this is Susila here.
Hi Susila.
My question is, my first question is not on, directly linked to lakes. So recently we saw so many migrant laborers leave cities, primarily because they couldn't afford to pay their rent. So I was wondering whether Good Earth has a plan about doing social housing through crowdfunding or something, because that seems a huge issue in India currently. I've straight away asked the question. Sorry, your talk was very,
that's fine.
very interesting, and it was really wonderful to see all the good work that you're doing. And I wish you would do a project in Kovai also. Okay, so back to the question.
Yeah, thank you, Sushila. My take on the migrant labor is why this migration has happened. Our rural economy has become weak. Primarily, agriculture was not taken care of, and we are still grappling with a proper pricing mechanism where agriculture is profitable and people are leaving agriculture as a profession. So where do they go? We also get migrant labor, and this strengthening the rural economy is most crucial because urban lands are expensive, and that is only possible if we get back to agriculture and revive agriculture. So when we say holistic, we need to look at that. But your question on the housing, we have the skills to do any sort of housing. We have done housing for even 50,000 rupees in some way back in Cochin, some for a trade union for their employees. So the principle is the same. For example, when we say holistic design, when you build a house, the same things come into picture. How are you treating your land? How are you treating your water? How are you treating your wastewater? Can you produce food even if it is 1,500 square foot or even less? Can you grow food on the terrace? So soil, water, food production, ecosystem, everything comes. Even in the 1 square foot you can design. I mean, if you really apply your mind. So building comes part of it. So we have the skill to do any size of building. We can do anywhere. What we do in Bangalore is different. Probably what we do in Kovai will be different. But I feel our skills are very hands-on, and I think Kovai has enough talents. We are open source. A lot of students and practicing architects and builders come to us and see our work and learn from us. We guide them. But I think if people put their action together, anything is possible. You can transform any housing area into something magic. It's not difficult. But people have to come together. We are kind of people are generally, I would say, more afraid to come together. We have become more individualistic. But I think in Tamil Nadu, I've seen unlike Kerala, people have always lived in the Uru, in the village together, more gregarious. And this group housing sort of thing, what we do is probably will really work in the Tamil culture. And design has immense potential. You can create anything for your budget. You still create an environment. You still can design something fantastic. It is possible.
One question, if others don't have immediate questions, the artwork that was done in the Achapalem Lake, I think it's Achapalem.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful, and I've seen that in CFL also. Drawings on granite slabs. I wonder whether someone could guide us to do that around Vellore.
Yeah, I think
where I've been working also.
Yeah. So I think art is something very, very important, integral part of our life, which elevates us to from the beyond the ordinary. It gives a different experience, and I think when I said public space, it should be a space for expressing art, and it will create a different experience to the visitor. It will lift up your spirit, and I think we have to encourage I get calls now. I mean, can you suggest somebody to? I say, I mean, we have to encourage more and more people to come forward and express their art. And India is so much in abundance of the talent. I mean, so much is possible.
Thank you, Stanley. We'll talk to you some other time. I'll let others ask you questions.
வணக்கம், நான் மணிகண்டன் பேசுறேன்.
சொல்லுங்க.
ரொம்ப ரொம்ப உபயோகமா இருந்துச்சு உங்களுடைய இது. நாங்க கோயம்புத்தூர்ல வந்துட்டு உங்க அளவுக்கு இவ்வளவு அறிவியல் பூர்வமா பண்றோமான்னு தெரியல. ஆனா நாங்க கடந்த ஒரு 163 வாரமா தொடர்ந்து ஒரு 3 வருஷமா தொடர்ந்து இந்த மாதிரி ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். ஒரு குளங்கள்ல இருக்க பிளாஸ்டிக்ஸ் ரிமூவ் பண்றது, அப்புறம் குளங்களுக்கு வெளியே வந்து ஏரிக்கரையில வந்து பனை மரங்கள் நட்டு கொஞ்சம் பட்டாம்பூச்சி தேனீக்களுக்காக ஒரு பார்க் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். இந்த மாதிரிலாம் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். ஆனா நீங்க ஒரு வாய்ப்பு கிடைச்சா கோயம்புத்தூர் ஒரு டைம் வந்துட்டு எங்களுக்கு இது எப்படி இன்னும் நல்லா ப்ராப்பரா பண்ணலாம் அப்படிங்கறது சஜஸ்ட் பண்ணணும். அதே போல நீங்க காட்டின ஏரியில இப்போ நீங்க லாஸ்டா காட்டின ஏரி வந்து சூவேஜ் இல்ல நல்ல தண்ணீர்லாம் டிராவல் பண்ணி வர மாதிரி பண்ணிருக்கீங்க அந்த ஏரிக்குள்ளரே. ஏரிக்குள்ளரையே இருந்துச்சுன்னா குளங்கள் நிறைய அது ஒரு பிரச்சனை ஆகாதா அப்படின்னு கேள்வியா இருக்கு.
Prashant, do you want to answer?
Yeah. Actually,
you can speak in Tamil also, Prashant. I mean,
yeah. Actually, so கொஞ்சம் கொஸ்டின் என்ன கேக்குறீங்கன்னா, இப்ப அந்த கொஞ்சம் ரிப்பீட் பண்ண முடியுமா கொஸ்டின்? சாரி, கொஞ்சம் கிளியரா கேக்கு.
அதாவது லாஸ்டா ஒரு ஏரி வந்து நீங்க அந்த சூவேஜ் எல்லாம் டிராவல் பண்ணி போகல அது வந்து ட்ரீட் ஆகும்னு சொன்னீங்க. அது வந்து ஏரி அந்த ஏரிக்குள்ளரே இருக்கிற மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு அந்த.
இல்ல ஆக்சுவலி அது பைபாஸ் பண்றதுக்கு அது அப்படி சுத்தி அது ஆக்சுவலி லெவல் வச்சு இன்லெட் லெவலும் அவுட்லெட் லெவலும் அது ஒரு ஹைட்ராலிக்ஸ்ல அது மெயின்டைன் பண்ணும். ஸோ தட் நீங்க எந்த காரணத்துக்குள்ள அது இந்த தண்ணி வந்து மெயின் தண்ணி போக கூடாது, பண்டு வச்சு. ஸோ அது டீடைல் பண்ணும்போது அது கரெக்டா டீடைல் பண்ணிக்கலாம். ஸோ எந்த காரணத்துக்குள்ள இந்த தண்ணி வந்து அந்த தண்ணிக்கு மிக்ஸ் ஆகாது. பிகாஸ் இப்ப ஃபர்ஸ்ட் செடி ஃபுல்லா சைடுல ஃபுல்லா செடி வச்சிருப்போம். அந்த ஃபுல் சேனல்லே ஃபுல் செடி தான் இருக்கும். இந்த மாதிரி இந்த வெட்லேண்ட் செடி, இந்த பியூரிஃபிகேஷனுக்காக ஒரு செடி. ஸோ த்ரூ சாயில் மோஸ்ட்லி எல்லாம் ஃபில்டர் ஆகும். தேர் வில் நாட் பி எனி அடல்ட்ரேஷன், அந்த வகையில் ஒரு அடல்ட்ரேஷன் நடக்காது.
நீங்க கோயம்புத்தூர்
பேசிக்கா லெவல்ல எல்லாம்
கோயம்புத்தூர் ஸ்மார்ட் சிட்டி ப்ராஜெக்ட்ல வந்துட்டு இந்த மாதிரி 8 லேக்ல வந்து இந்த மாதிரி ப்ராஜெக்ட் பண்றாங்க. எங்களுக்கு வந்து அது என்னன்னா, அதை வந்து மறுபடியும் அதே செடி அதே மண் அதே இடத்துல இருந்துச்சுன்னா அதை வந்து மறுபடியும் அதை ரிமூவ் பண்ண வேண்டிய அவசியம் எல்லாம் இருக்காதா? அதை வந்து மறுபடியும் அதை மாத்தி பண்ண முடியுமான்னு கேட்கிறேன். ஏன்னா இப்ப அதுல வர செடிமெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் அங்கேயேதான் இது இருக்கும். அதனால அதை வந்து நம்ம ரிமூவ் பண்ண வேண்டியது இல்லையான்னு கேட்கிறேன்.
ஆக்சுவலா இந்த செடி இந்த வெட்ல இருக்க செடி மோஸ்ட்லி ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணி ஆகணும். ஏன்னா இந்த நியூட்ரன் பேசிக்லி அந்த நியூட்ரன் எடுத்து we have to let it sometimes அது ஓவர் க்ரோன் பண்ண விட முடியாது. அது நீங்க திருப்பி அந்த நியூட்ரன் when we say harvesting, we have to harvest the nutrient out so that it can become some other product. So exactly I'm not sure how that will work, but ideally in the plant எல்லாம் அதுக்கு ஒரு harvesting தேவைப்படும். So you want to add something more?
Yeah, கொஞ்சம் சுவேஜ் இருந்தா என்ன பண்ணுவேன்னா, அந்த சுவேஜ் என்ன நியூட்ரியன்ஸ், அந்த நியூட்ரியன்ஸ்ல இந்த வெஜிடேஷன் நல்ல ரோபஸ்டா வருவார். அந்த நம்ம எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ்ல இந்த அஞ்சபாளையத்துல அக்வாட்டிக் ஐப்போமே என்ன வந்து ஒரு பிளான்ட் இருக்கு. அது வந்து லேக்கு நிறைய ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஆகுது. அந்த நியூட்ரியன்ஸ் எவ்வளவு இருந்து அந்த ஃபாஸ்டா க்ரோத் ஆகுது. அது வந்து ஈஸியா ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணலாம். அது வந்து ஸ்வீட் பொட்டேட்டோ ஃபேமிலியில இருக்குது. அது வந்து எக்ஸலன்ட் பவுடர், நமக்கு கூட சாப்பிடலாம். அது இப்போ வேஸ்ட் இருந்தா நமக்கு அந்த மாதிரி சப்போர்ட் பண்ண முடியாது. அது பக்கத்துல இந்த பண்ணை வச்சிருக்கிறோம் இல்ல, அதை எடுத்துட்டு போய் சாப்பாடு மாடுக்கெல்லாம் கொடுத்துட்டு போகுது. இதே பிரின்சிபல்ல இந்த வேர்ல்டு ஒரு ப்ராக்டிஸ் பண்ற இந்த ஒரு வாட்டர் பாடியில நியூட்ரியன்ஸ் அல்லங்க வேஸ்ட் எக்ஸஸ் வந்தா எப்படி கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுவேன்னா, அது வந்து பிளான்ட் வெஜிடேட்டிவ் க்ரோத் அலோவ் பண்ணி அது ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கணும். அந்த ஹார்வெஸ்டிங்ல எக்ஸஸ் நியூட்ரியன்ஸ் ரிமூவல் ஆகுது. அது அல்டிமேட் சாய்ஸ் இல்ல என்ன, ஓரளவுக்கு அது அப்படி வந்திருந்தா கூட அதை வெஜிடேஷனை அலோவ் பண்ணி அதை ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணி இருந்தா அது அந்த நியூட்ரியன்ட் பிகம் பிளான்ட் பாடி. அண்ட் ஒன்ஸ் யூ ரிமூவ் அது வந்து வெளியில போகும். அந்த மெயின்டைன் பண்ண முடியும், அந்த பேலன்ஸ் ஓரளவுக்கு கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ண முடியும். அதை நான் முதல்ல சொல்லி இந்த மெஷர்மெண்ட் ரெகுலரா பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கணும். ஆக்சிஜன் லெவல் என்ன இருக்கு இந்த தண்ணியில, அது டேஞ்சரஸ் லெவல் இருக்கு, அது கம்மியானா அது ஹார்வெஸ்ட் இமீடியட்டா பண்ணணும். இல்லைன்னா அது வந்து டீகம்போஸ் ஆகி அது நியூட்ரியன்ஸ் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா வந்து அது ஆக்சிஜன் லெவல் ஃபர்தர் டிப்ளீட் ஆகுது. அது என்ன கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ண முடியும். ஏன்னா மெஷர்மெண்ட் ஒரு ப்ராசஸ் கரெக்டா செட்டப் பண்ணியிருந்தா நமக்கு ஈஸியா அது மெயின்டைன் பண்ணலாம். அது வந்து இப்ப பாம்பு பண்ணி அது கூட ஃபாஸ்டா க்ரோத் ஆகுது, அது வந்து எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ஜென்ரேஷன் ஆகுது, கார்பன் சிக்வஸ்ட்ரேஷன் ஆகுது, அது வேற யூஸுக்கு யூஸ் ஆகுது. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பிளானிங்ல இது மேனேஜ் பண்றது காஸ்ட் கம்மியா இருக்கும். அப்புறம் அது வந்து எம்ப்ளாய்மெண்ட் ஜென்ரேஷன் ஆகுது, லோக்கல் கம்யூனிட்டிக்கு யூஸ் ஆகுது, அந்த மாதிரி பண்ணலாம். தேங்க்யூ
சார். இப்போ வந்துட்டு இந்த கோயம்புத்தூர்ல இருக்க குளங்கள்ல நிறைய இந்த ஆகாய தாமரை இருக்கு. ஆகாய தாமரைக்கு இங்கிலீஷ் ஆகாய தாமரை,
லோட்டஸ் லில்லி சார்,
வாட்டர் ஹைசின்த்.
இது வந்துட்டு இதை எப்படி ரிமூவ் பண்றது? இது ரிமூவ் பண்ணலாமா வேணாமா உங்க பார்வையில?
அது வந்து சயின்டிபிக்கா சொல்லினா அந்த வாட்டர் குவாலிட்டியில ஆக்சிஜன் லெவல் என்னன்னு செக் பண்ணணும். அது ஆக்சிஜன் லெவல் கம்மியா இருந்தா அது ரிமூவ் பண்ணணும். ரிமூவ் பண்ணிடலைன்னா அது வந்து டீகம்போஸ் ஆகி அது ஃபர்தர் ஆக்சிஜன் டிப்ளேஷன் ஆகுது. அந்த தண்ணியில இருக்கிற அக்வாட்டிக் லைஃபுக்கு, மீன் ஜண்டு எல்லாத்துக்குமே ஆக்சிஜன் கிடையாது, அது வந்து டெத் ஆகுது. அப்போ அது ரிமூவ் பண்ணணும். அது இப்போ வந்து அது பெரிய ப்ராப்ளம். அது ப்ராப்ளம் வந்து வாட்டர் ஹெசின்ட் இல்ல, ப்ராப்ளம் வந்து சுவேஜ் என்ட்ரி ஆகுது. அது சுவேஜ் கண்ட்ரோல் ஆயிருந்தா வாட்டர் ஹெசின்ட் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா கண்ட்ரோல் ஆகும். அதை நான் சொல்றது அந்த ஹோலிஸ்டிக் என்ற ஏன்னா அது வந்து ஒரு காஸ் என்ன அதை அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணி அதுக்கு ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் பண்ணணும். வாட்டர் ஹெசின்ட்க்கு ஒரு காஸ் இருக்கு. காஸ் என்ன, அது சுவேஜ் என்ட்ரி ஆகுது. அது சோர்ஸ்ல கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணி அது பண்ணியால அந்த வாட்டர் ஹெசின்ட் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கலி கண்ட்ரோல் ஆகுது, அது வாட்டர் கிளீன் ஆகுது. அതാണ് அது மெத்தடு. இதே நான் சொல்லிய முதல்ல நமக்கு எப்போ இந்த ரெகுலரா இது காம்ப்ளிகேட் ஆகுது. வாட்டர் ஹெசின்ட் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் டெக்னாலஜி அது பண்ணல, அது ஒரு ரோப் வச்சு புல் பண்ணி அது ரிமூவ் பண்ணல. பட் வந்து இதுக்கு காரணம் வந்து சுவேஜ் என்ட்ரி ஆகுது. அது ஒரு அப்பார்ட்மெண்ட் இருந்தா அது மனைகள்ல வீடுகள்ல அது வெளியில வந்து இது லேக் அதை கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணணும். உங்களுக்கு சோர்ஸ் கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ண முடியல, இது ப்ராப்ளம் சால்வ் பண்ண முடியல. இப்போ வந்து அத பர்னிச்சருக்கெல்லாம் யூஸ் பண்றது தாய்லாந்துல, அந்த நிறைய இந்தோனேஷியால வாட்டர் ஹெசின்ட்ல பர்னிச்சர் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். ஏன்னா அது சொல்யூஷன் இல்ல, அதுல இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் பண்ணி வேலை பண்றது ஓரளவுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணல. ஈஸியா ஹார்வெஸ்டிங் நான் முதல்ல சொல்லி இந்த அக்வாட்டிக் எப்பவுமே வந்து ஈஸியா ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ண முடியும். அது பவுடரை யூஸ் பண்ணல, பாம்பு யூஸ் பண்ணல. வாட்டர் அது வேற பிளான்ஸ் வந்து நியூட்ரியன்ஸ் பிக்கப் அப்டேக் ஆயினா அந்த வாட்டர் ஹெசின்ட் லோடு கம்மியா வரும். அப்புறம் முதல்ல இந்த காரணம் அது வந்து எங்கேருந்து அது வேஸ்ட் தண்ணி வருது, அதை அங்கே கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணணும். அது லோக்கல்ல ஒரு வீடு இருந்தா வீட்டுல ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் பண்ணணும். அதோட சாக்பிட்ல பண்ணி அங்கே லோக்கல்ல வீட்டுல தானே அது ரீசைக்கிள் பண்ணி அவருக்கு அது ஃபுட்டை க்ரோ பண்ணலாம், என்ன வேணாலும் பண்ணலாம். அந்த மாதிரி மோர் டீசென்ட்ரலைஸ் தென் அது சொல்யூஷன் இருக்கு, வாட்டர் பாடி கிளீனா வருது.
நாங்க வந்து இந்த வாட்டர் வச்சுட்டு அதோட வேஸ்ட் வச்சுட்டு நாங்க வந்துட்டு இப்போ மியாவாக்கி மெத்தட்ல மரம் வச்சிருக்கோம். நாங்க வந்துட்டு ஒரு 1200 டன் அளவுக்கு போட்டுட்டு அது மேல வந்து மரம் வச்சிருக்கோம். நல்லா மரம் வளருது, நல்லா வளருது. ஆனா இது ரிமூவ் பண்றதுதான் பெரிய பிரச்சனையா இருக்கு. கோயம்புத்தூர் நிறைய லேக்ல வந்து இது இருக்கு. அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்துட்டு இப்போ லேக்ல வந்துட்டு இருக்க அந்த சாக்கடை தண்ணிகள்லாம் நிறைய கலக்குல, அதுக்கு வந்து இஎம் சொல்யூஷன் போட்டு அதை வந்து கிளீன் பண்ண முடியும்னு சொல்றாங்க. அது எப்படி நீங்க ஏதாவது பண்ணிருக்கீங்களா?
இஎம் யூஸ் பண்ணிருக்கேன். அது வந்து கொஞ்சம் வந்து செட்டில் ஆகுது. ஏன்னா இந்த ஃபண்டமெண்டல இந்த இது வந்து இது காரணம், இதுக்கு சுவேஜ் வருது, அது கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணணும். அப்புறம் இதுக்கு அக்வாட்டிக் வாட்டர் ஹார்வெஸ்டிங் அந்த அளவுக்கு ஈஸி இல்ல. அப்போ நான் முதல்ல சொல்லிய பாம்பு, அக்வாட்டிக் ஐப்போமியா, அது வாட்டர் பிளான்ட் தான். அந்த மாதிரி பிளான்ட் ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஆயிருந்தா அது ஹார்வெஸ்டிங் ஈஸியா ஆகுது. அது லேக்ல போய் அந்த ஒரு கிளைம்பர் மாதிரி ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஆகுது. அது அந்த ரூட்ல கட் பண்ணி அது சும்மா அது எங்க ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணியது, அது கிரேன் கூட யூஸ் பண்ணி கரையில இருந்தது ஒரு இடத்துல புல் பண்ணி ஈஸியா ஹார்வெஸ்ட் கண்ட்ரோல் முடியலன்னா இந்த அக்வாட்டிக் பிளான்ட் growth வருது. அதுக்கு கொஞ்சம் ஈஸியா ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ண ஐட்டம்ஸ் இன்ட்ரோடியூஸ் பண்ணி அது கொஞ்சம் ஈஸியா இருக்கும். வாட்டர் ஹெசன்ட் கம்மியாகும். அதுல டாமினேட் பண்றது வேற அக்வாட்டிக் எப்பவுமே இருக்கு, அது யூஸ் பண்ணல. இது நான் முதல்ல சொல்ல இந்த ஊருந்த இந்த நியூட்ரியன்ட் வந்து ஷிஃப்ட் ஆகி சிட்டியில வந்திருக்கு. அது வந்து திருச்சி ஊர்லேக்கு எப்படி போகும்? நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி மேயாவைக்கு ஃபாரஸ்ட் அஃபாரஸ்டேஷன் ஸ்கீமுக்கு அதை கம்போஸ் பண்ணல. அந்த நியூட்ரியன்ஸ் திருப்பி வந்து லேண்ட்ல வந்திருந்த லேண்ட் ரிச் ஆகுது. அது விவசாயத்துக்கு யூஸ் ஆகுது, இல்லைன்ற அஃபாரஸ்டேஷன் ப்ராஜெக்ட்ஸ்க்கு அது யூஸ் ஆகுது. இந்த மயாவாக்கி பிரின்சிபல் இதுதான், ஆக்சிலரேட்டட் பிளான் growth. அதுக்கு நியூட்ரியன்ஸ் எக்ஸஸ் கொடுத்துட்டு இருந்தா அதை ஃபாரஸ்ட்ல ஹியூமஸ் இருக்கு, அந்த மேல் மண் இருக்கு, நிறைய ஃபெர்டிலைசர் அது வளம் இருக்கு, உரம் இருக்கு. அந்த மாதிரி பண்ண வேணா ஒரு ஃபாரஸ்ட் ப்ராஜெக்ட்னா இவன் சுவேஜ் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் பிளான்ட்ல ஸ்லட்ஸ் கூட யூஸ் பண்ணல, அது ஈஸியா வரும், சீப்பா இருக்கும். அது அது தட் இஸ் மை ஐடியா. இந்த மயாவாக்கி ಅಂದ್ರೆ எக்ஸ்பென்ஸ் ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ இருக்கு. அதுக்கெಲ್ಲ 30 lakhs 25 lakhs ஏக்கருக்கெல்லாம் கேட்குவாரு, என்னன்னு தெரியல. அந்த அளவுக்கு இந்தியாவுக்கு அதை ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணுங்க, அதை அஃபோர்ட் பண்ண முடியாது. இது சும்மா அது இஎம் யூஸ் பண்ணி கம்போஸ் பண்ணல, இந்த சாணி கூட யூஸ் பண்ணி கம்போஸ் பண்ணல. அது சிம்பிள் ப்ராசஸ் இருக்கு. அதுல பண்ணி ஒரு லேண்ட்ல அதை டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ணி என்ன வேணாலும் பிளான்டிங் பண்ணல, அது ஃபாஸ்டா growth வருது.
I have another question. Sorry, if no one else wants to ask, I'll ask. Otherwise, I'll wait for others to ask questions. Can I ask? Is that okay?
You please ask, madam. Please go ahead.
See, Prashant was explaining how not to let sewage water get into the lake, and in India and in Tamil Nadu, the governments don't have proper sewage treatment plants, and all the sewage gets dumped into water bodies. So in your experience, have you tried treating the sewage by yourselves without depending on the government?
Yeah, of course. We have done a lot. Prashant can answer. I mean, why don't you?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, so for example, at our own residence, like we talked about a 50-acre Malhar complex. So each one of these, communities, we have our own STP. So actually, the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board has strict norms on, what can be let out from each property. So in that sense, a lot of these community developments have, by law, have to, have certain STPs at working conditions. I mean, well, the regulations and the things are a different order, but the design, like for example, at Malhar, all our STPs are, we have a certain quality before which it's even let out. First, let alone let out, because most of the water here is actually being reused for irrigation. We hardly use any water is actually let out in that sense. So, to answer your question, I think the only way of solving this problem is to look at each of these sources and see where the principal contamination is, and see if that's something can be done at that, at the local level. That's the only way we can, solve any of these big. When it comes to lake, it's actually accumulated sewage, and we'll have to do a root cause analysis, go backwards, and find out which of these systems are actually adulterating the stream flows.
Yeah, see, now there are many designs for sewage treatment. For a single house, for 10 houses, 100 houses, I mean 50,000 large STP. So depending on the load, there is a design possible. We would recommend more smaller, decentralized design at the source. What one has to do, if it is an individual house, you segregate gray water and black water. And black water, the WHO recommended 2-pit system, and I think in the Swachh Bharat also it is recommended 2-pit system. You can design for from the toilet outlet, you can treat with a 2-pit system, and the gray water and the water from the kitchen and your wash basin with a simple filtration can be recycled very easily, and that is lot of water, and it's about 3 times of almost 2/3 of your wastewater is actually gray water, and that is a phenomenal resource to grow things. For example, if you grow grape wine which climb over the terrace, you plant it near the kitchen, and your wastewater, if it goes there, the plant will go up and climb the roof, on your terrace. You put some structure there, and it will give you shade. There are many plants like that, climbers. For practical purpose, to irrigation near the kitchen outlet is very simple. You can grow passion fruit. I can suggest many names, but you grow useful things as climbers, which will climb on the. It will also cool down your building once you grow something on the terrace. And this is what design matters. Use a simple design which your wastewater is channelized to a point where the plants are growing. They will do extremely well, and your temperature in your house, once plant shade, roughly our measurement is that 4 to 5 degrees, the temperature inside the house will come down. If it is about say 35 degrees in summer, it will be 30 degrees. And if it is 30 degrees, it will be 25 degrees. So plants do such great, you don't need air conditioner. You can bring down drastically the temperature. These are simple things. So instead of going for very complicated technology, use simple ideas. And I think once you understand these things, little attention to detail, we can make a huge difference in the quality of the temperature and atmosphere in the building. And it will release more oxygen, and you will feel much more healthier. And this is a resource you're wasting and draining, letting out. Why don't you grow things with that? And it can be very easily designed.
So, Venkat sir, please ask your question, sir.
நன்றி சார், நன்றி. கோவை குளங்கள் அமைப்புல இருந்து கேட்டிருந்தாங்க, இந்த கழிவு நீர்கள் எல்லாம் ஏரிக்குள்ளார சூழ விடும் பொழுது அது எதாவது பிரச்சனையாகும். நீங்களும் ஒரு நல்ல பதில் சொல்லுவீங்க. இந்த நேரத்துல எங்களுடைய நகரத்துல அந்த காலத்துல பயன்படுத்தின ஒரு முறையை நான் சொல்ல வேண்டியதா இருக்கு. என்னன்னா, எங்க ஊர்ல இந்த ஏரிகளுக்குள்ளார இணையிற இடங்கள் எல்லா இடத்துலயுமே என்னன்னா, அந்த இடத்துல ஒரு குட்டைகளை வச்சிருக்காங்க. அந்த குட்டைகள் பாத்தீங்கன்னா மணல் சார்ந்த இடமா இருக்கு. அதனால அந்த நகரத்துக்குள்ளார இருந்து வரக்கூடிய கழிவுகள் எல்லாம் அந்த குட்டையில ஃபில்டர் ஆயிட்டு ஏரிக்குள்ளார போகுதுங்க சார். இது ஒரு பழங்கால ஒரு மெத்தடு. இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு மணல் குட்டைகளை ஒவ்வொரு வாய்க்கால்கள் ஏரிக்குள்ள கலக்கிற இடத்துல நம்ம வைக்கணும் அப்படின்னா, அது வாட்டர் சீவேஜ் பிளான்ட்டோட கொஞ்சம் விலை கம்மியாகும், குறைவான செலவுலையும் நம்ம பண்ணிக்கலாம். அடுத்ததாக எங்களுடைய அமைப்பு சார்பாக நம்ம பசுமை பேசுறேன். அங்க நாங்க கோரிக்கை வைத்ததுல இருந்து என்ன பண்ணிருக்காங்கன்னா, சில வாய்க்கால்கள் வரக்கூடிய இடங்கள்ல பேரிகார்ட்ஸ் மாதிரி வலைகள் வச்சிருக்காங்க. அதுல நாங்க என்ன பண்றோம், இந்த சாலிட் வேஸ்ட் எல்லாத்தையுமே அதுல அங்கங்க ஃபில்டர் பண்றோம். இது ஃபர்தரா இன்னும் நகரமயமாக்கல் ஆனதுனால ஒரு 50 வீடுகளுக்கு ஒவ்வொரு பேரிகார்டு அப்படின்ற மாதிரி வச்சுட்டு, இந்த பேரிகார்டு அதாவது ஃபில்டர் இதுக்குள்ளார விழக்கூடிய குப்பைகளுக்கு நீங்க தான் பொறுப்பு, இது விழாம நீங்க பாத்துங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லும் பொழுது அவங்க என்னன்னா, நிறைய பேர் ஏங்க இவ்வளவு ஓடையில் குப்பையா நாங்க போடலைங்க, எங்களோட முன்னாடி இருந்தவங்க போட்டாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு எல்லாரும் அடுத்தவங்க கை காட்டுறாங்க, தவிர அவங்களும் போட்டிருக்காங்கன்றது யாரும் ஒத்துக்கிறதே இல்லை. இந்த மாதிரி சிஸ்டம் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தோம் சார். இதை சொல்றதுக்கு தான் நான் கேட்டேன். நன்றி.
உங்களோட ஆலோசனைக்கு நன்றி வெங்கட் சார். இது நம்ம அதான் அவங்க சொல்ற மாதிரி இந்த டீசென்ட்ரலைசேஷன், அவங்கவுங்க கழிவுகளுக்கு அவங்கவுங்க பொறுப்புங்கிற மாதிரியான ஒரு சிஸ்டம் வரும்போது ஒரு ரொம்ப யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும். வேற யாருக்காவது ஏதாவது கொஸ்டின்ஸ் இருக்கா நீங்க கேட்கலாம். கண்டிப்பா வேற யாருக்காவது ஏதாவது கொஸ்டின்ஸ் இருக்கா?
I'll also appreciate your feedback because we are doing it for the first time. And when I sent some note in the Anjapale, like Vinny said, why don't you talk to the group in Coimbatore? So we got very excited. I hope our talk and presentation was of some use.
Yes, sir. It was. I am Harigan from Kovi Kulungal Palka Panapu, sir. And it was a very nice presentation, and whenever we go and see for a presentation from such a groups, we see them that we have so much of STPs and different kinds of methods to do some lake rejuvenations. When it comes to lake rejuvenations, they say that we have so many STPs or so many methods for water treatment and all, and they say that in a larger scale it is possible, but this is the first time I ever heard that it is not possible at the larger scale, and everything has to be segregated at the source. The end must be at the source.
Yeah.
For every pollutant, the end is at the source. If it is not ended at the source, then when it is segregated together, then it is it cannot be taken care of.
Yeah.
Even by the government. If even the government cannot take care, then how can the individuals or individual group can take care? So it was one of the great points that I took it from here. So it was a great presentation.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We had caught a truck dumping chemical sewage into the river about 4 months back, where I live in Bangalore. This is a usual story. So the industrial sewage treatment is expensive. They are supposed to take it outside to designated treatment areas, and it is expensive. So what the contractor does is he takes the contract to transport and treat, and he conveniently dump it into the stream and go. And when you dump it into the stream, or you find a public sewer, and you just open the lid and put the hose into it and unload the chemical sewage into the sewer network. That's what I said. Large systems will fail. If in a small thing, you can actually fix a small problem. The large thing will, the entire recipe is collapsed. And if it is 10 people into 50, then you have, but if it is 500, then it becomes more complex. So break it down. Decentralization has a larger meaning. It simplifies engineering, and it is better engineering. And if you don't understand this, this is actually Bangalore has spent thousands of people, most of these are not functioning. It will go through it and come out at the same stage. It is not doing any work. And you see the Godavari river polluted water is coming to Kaveri because untreated sewage is coming back. So this is a fundamental problem. To centralize and make it big, it will fail. We know even an individual house, to maintain an STP, sewage treatment, we have to be careful. If you are careless, you'll plastic and diapers and all will choke, and you have to clean the chambers. And imagine if it is a 50,000 people dump coming to one point, how are they going to manage it? It is not manageable. And all over the world, it is experienced that it is a failure. So we have to look at simple solutions which people can manage, a simple design, which a household, and if it is decentralized, the sewage is not a problem. It is an excellent resource to grow things. It is simple money. And when a sewage is flowing out of a city, you have to see it is a crores of rupees falling out, because it is all phosphates and nutrients which you need to grow things, grow agriculture, grow timber. Imagine in the Coimbatore have a tree belt, and you can create so much wealth. You can grow teak, you can grow anything, and with so much nutrient coming and water coming. And we know, in Tamil Nadu very well, how many people are struggling without water for irrigation. There is always a, with Kaveri. I know very well the Dindigul, Tamil, Madurai belt. I travel there very often. Most of the areas, even Karaikudi, Chittanad, all those areas, completely dried up. So water is a precious resource. And that resource, if we don't use, I think it's a criminal waste of resources, and it is not going to sustain. We will have to pay a big price for wasting water in future.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Any others? Do you have any questions? I have a
question. Sir,
please go ahead.
Yes.
Actually, as an NGO, how can we raise a fund for for a research and for testing anything water quality or for documentation? As an NGO, can we raise a fund for those things? Actually, for rejuvenation and other things, planting, and we can get a fund from public. So go for it.
Yes, I think I say I look forward. India needs a movement for citizens come forward. As an NGO, you come forward, and there are so many technical institutions in Coimbatore, engineering colleges, and that college can be a partner, and children will have a better education of actually participating in a live project. How do you measure water quality? How do you measure water quantity? I can do it with even school dropout. It's not rocket science. With mobile phone, all these youngsters will do it. But we can give you the idea if we interact. How to do it? We have actually done something in Bangalore for a region. I mean, educated people how to do it. They have to go about. See, we will we are upset that the environment is bad. Our government is not doing, but we cannot go like this forever. Government's interest is in mega projects, and you have expensive consultancies involved in it, expensive contract. There is huge money, and they all push. When we in Bangalore, our experience, we said we will generate the fund, and the administration is not allowing. They want to do it because they can get something out of it. So I think it is a come forward, And money is not a problem. I think it's crowdfunding. And if you know that's what I said, have a larger vision. If you know where you're going, the rest will fall in place. You don't need huge money to do this. There are small kits to test the water quality. It can be set up. All the engineering colleges have the labs. We can tie up with them and have a program. And if I would say, if one person takes it in your heart, a lake will be cleaned up. That determination to pursue is very, very crucial. That's what I said. We have to put heart into it and the brain into it. So it's not rocket science. If you have so many, all these lakes can be, the technical partner can be any of the engineering colleges or polytechnic. You don't need engineering actually, or any ITIs or even college students. When I ask colleges, they can be the technical partner, and we can guide you on that, how to do these things. And it's not very complicated. Any government can do it. That measurement, have a lab, and that lab facility, the colleges have the facility, and that is a small investment you need initially. Initially, probably to understand heavy metal in that or chemical presence, but after that you monitor only the oxygen level. That's a very simple instrument, and it's only small money. Prashant will tell you the figure, how much is it, and with that dissolved oxygen level can be measured by even a school kid. And if he registers, and that information you capture and share with the community, this is the water quality. And the taking care of the environment has to be a culture. Unless we take it in a heart and carry it, I don't think any government is going, because it's getting worse and worse. I don't think it is public money will be wasted on all these things. People think, yes, if some fantastic thing is happening, it's okay to budget for it and spend. But I am telling you, these mega projects are wasting public resources, not solving the problem at all. If that is the case, how the administration been able to clean any river? What happened to the Ganga cleaning? Because unless you start with the decentralization at the source, Ganga will never be cleaned. All this huge volume of STPs will be waste of public resources. We have to start at the source. That is a fundamental rule. If that is forgotten, we will be going circle and wasting money. And one government will come, another will come. We will go on. This is going all over. I mean, every state this is going on. Thanks. It is not complicated. It is very easily doable.
Thank you.
So, it has been wonderful interacting to you, sir. And on behalf of Kovai Colonial Park, I thank Stanley sir and Prashant for I guess stopping the pollution at the source, and also for the decent pest mechanisms of the water, and getting back into the agricultural lands, and also for the good design and what like I cannot spell that. It was a great design that in our everything such a structure, and we are aware that it is non-computerized. It has a great ecosystem there also, and we congratulate for your. We also will be in touch with you and your group for designing our. We are also taking care of some projects on Bellanur lakes and other lakes by the rural sites, and we wish that we will be in touch with you. We will be collaborating with you in future to get to know about your ideas on our projects, and we are sure that we will also take up your point on collaborating with institutions and college students for data mining and also for the chemical testing facilities on the waters. So we thank you all, and we thank all the participants. And one
statement. Say, we don't have to get afraid of the big volume of work involved. Step by step, take one lake. I will say start with the topmost. Even for Bellandur, my observation is that unless you clean the upstream lakes or the upstream land sewage, we cannot fix the problem at Bellandur. We will be simply wasting money, because the problem has to be fixed at the origin, and it is at the anywhere that's a ridge to valley. If you look at the catchment, for example, in Coimbatore, you will see an institution with 50 acre or 100 acre. That is pretty much a clean catchment. That water we cannot mix with sewage and waste. That has to be used to recharge in the land itself. We didn't talk much about aquifer recharge. What we have done in Bangalore, If your borewell is sucking water from the bottom, it means water is available. There is a rock formation which can hold water, and you can use the same rock formation to refill the water. And what our experience is, almost at the rate of pulling up. If you pull out 10,000 liters per hour, the equal amount of water you can push it back. And in 24 hours, you can imagine 2.4 lakh liters of water will go down. And you have a multiple borewells. You can have dummy borewells to recharge borewells, and use the underground to store that it doesn't evaporate and go. And this has to be done in agriculture if you have to protect agriculture during rains, when Kaveri floods or any river floods, Neyal floods, or that water with a simple filtration the farmers can use with the existing borewell. You pump to the borewells and recharge the aquifers and pull it out in summer so that you have water in summer. Because every year your water table is going down by 30 feet, 50 feet, and it has touched the bottom. Now I'll give you the big picture of water. Maybe 1,000 years ago, there was not even a well, and people were taking water from the streams. And when that dried up, we started making a small wells, small ponds. When that dried up, we started making step wells, going down 10 feet, 20 feet. In Gujarat and all, you see even 80 feet, 100 feet step wells, because water table has gone down. When that went down, we started digging borewells, and that now has touched the bottom. There is nowhere to go unless you recharge scientifically, and it is doable. It's not complicated. This flood water, when there is excess water, you capture it, push it down and store so that you can use it in summer. Otherwise, it will drain into the sea. And this engineering has to be done, and this farmers can do themselves. You don't need any complicated science. But this is the idea that when the flood water is going, you need to filter so that you don't contaminate. It is that filter is only a fabric which will cost you only 500 rupees. You puncture the borewell, same borewell, which you take water and allow the water to collect there with a small pond. It will percolate down and recharge your aquifer. And this has to be done across India, because you unshort, you address flood and also drought in summer. This is how you have to smartly use your science and protect our farmers and build up the GDP of the nation.
Sure, sir. Sure. So we are an NGO which has been doing laborious work for the 3 years, but we are not that technically sound this far, and we are using this COVID lockdown time to get us technically sound, and we are improving day by day. With all your guidance and technical knowledges, we are sure that we will also be good in technical knowledge, and we will be making it good for the society. And I thank you once again. Thank you, sir, and your institution, and also Prashant sir for his wonderful presentation. And I also thank all the participants who has been an immense part of this meeting. இந்த மீட்டிங்ல இணைஞ்சு இத்தனை நேரம் இந்த செஷனை வந்து ரொம்ப நல்லபடியா நடத்தி கொடுத்ததுக்காக எல்லாருக்கும் நன்றி தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறோம். இதே மாதிரி அடுத்து வர மீட்டிங்லையும் கலந்துக்கணும்னு கேட்டுக்கிறோம். இதுல எங்களோட கோவை குளங்கள் பாதுகாப்பை பற்றி ஃபேஸ்புக் ஐடி, யூடியூப் ஐடி, அதே மாதிரி கூகுள் ஃபார்ம்ஸும் கொடுத்துருக்கோம். உங்களோட ஃபீட்பேக்ஸ்களை வந்து பதிவு செஞ்சீங்கன்னா அடுத்த மீட்டிங்களை மென்மேலும் சிறப்பாக நடத்துறதுக்கு உதவியா இருக்கும். இத்தனை நேரம் 2 மணி நேரம் இணைஞ்சிருந்து இந்த செஷன் நல்லபடியா நடத்தி கொடுத்ததுக்கு நன்றி.
Thank you.